Chris P. in Davenport, Iowa said, is it safe to say if the Big Ten wins a national title, the Big Ten has surpassed the SEC? Chris. Is it really that simple? Is it really that basic? Maybe it is. I've got thoughts on this that I've shared before. I don't think I've shared them in the last few weeks, though. So it's a really good time for the Big Ten, but not all of the Big Ten. But it's a really good time for the logo of the Big Ten if you define success and best and superiority by which league wins the national title. Then it's a great time to be the Big Ten. It's never a bad time to be the Big Ten because they've been either number one or number two in the power conference pecking order for a long time now. They could be number one right now or number two, depending on your criteria. So let's walk it through. Let's say Ohio State or Indiana wins the national title this year. Well, my answer then wouldn't be any different than it is now. It all depends on how you define superiority, number one, number two. And I think that I value both a little bit. So I think there's a lot to be said about both. I tend to judge the overall conference by the competitive depth of the conference. So I still think the SEC has the edge there. But if you're the kind of guy who thinks, well, hey, man, if I got the best two teams in the country, I don't care if you have number 3 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. Cool, to each his and her own. The reason I think it's a great time for the Big Ten is because the overall landscape of the sport has changed to the benefit of the Big Ten, which means a couple of things. The first one's obvious. The first one is, with what's happened with NIL, many more Big Ten programs have leaned into paying players because everyone's doing it now legally. And so that's also redistributed some of the talent, but I think that's happened more in the SEC than the Big Ten. What I mean by that is in the Big Ten, Ohio State and Michigan, Penn State, Oregon, USC now, those will always be places that recruit at a fairly high level. Ohio State is a juggernaut recruiting program. USC just landed the number one class, which is great, but Oregon's done it. But the point is, if you think about it in terms of talent concentration, the talent is far more concentrated in the Big Ten than it is in the SEC, which means two things. That means Georgia may lose a few elite players. Bama may lose a few elite players that go to randomly Ole Miss or South Carolina or Arkansas, because that does happen occasionally. But that still means the talent's in the league. It's just more distributed. Whereas in the Big Ten, no one ever turns down Ohio State to go to Wisconsin. In the SEC, it just makes sense to people that Dylan Stewart is playing at South Carolina over Georgia, because that stuff just happens in the SEC. Freak athletes go to places where it's very unlikely they're going to win a national title, but still, those places get legit talent. In the Big Ten, who in the world is voluntarily just going to Michigan State over Oregon, unless it's a big-time geographical proximity sort of thing? It doesn't happen. Hey, guys, do me one favor. Check and see if you're subscribed to the channel. If you are, great. If you're not, it's that easy. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't sign you up for anything. It just helps us do the show this way forever. All right, back to the clip. And as a result, the top of the Big Ten, the tallest trees in the Big Ten right now look to be taller than the tallest trees in the SEC. I think the SEC forest is way thicker than the Big Ten's. Very vivid right there. And what I mean by that, you can pull up the latest recruiting rankings, but you could really do this for the last several classes, because this could be explained away as anecdotal. I'm telling you, I wouldn't give this example if extrapolated out over the last several years, it didn't pretty much look the same. So USC, the signing day was last Wednesday, by the way, for those who weren't paying attention. The On3 Sports recruiting rankings are in my hand right now. In the Big Ten, some of these teams had really good signing classes. USC, number 1 overall, Oregon 3, Ohio State 6, and then it's Michigan at 12th, Washington at 16th. So you had a few of them. You had 3 of them in the top 6, and then you got 1 at 12, and then the rest of them outside of the top 15. In the SEC, Bama was 4, Georgia was 5, Tennessee 7, A&M 8, Texas 10, LSU 11, Florida 13, South Carolina 15, Oklahoma 17. And if you want to start doing the comparison cross conferences, 1, 2, 3, 4. Washington was 5th in the Big Ten at number 16. That's about where Oklahoma was in the SEC, but the 5th highest recruiting class in the Big Ten would have been 2, 4, 6, 8, 9th in the SEC. So just the overall talent pool is deeper there. That's all. But you'll notice what the example I just gave about the on-field product carries very similarly to the recruiting classes. Yeah, Bama's 4th and 5th, USC's 1st, Oregon's 3rd. Ohio State's 6th, and they're going to develop the you-know-what out of anybody that they sign. So, I don't know. I guess it all comes down to how you judge conferences. I will also say this. When you see how top-heavy the Big Ten still is, it may not always be that way, but it still is now, it makes perfect sense why they're pushing for the AQ model. This playoff field right now is an example. SEC got 5 teams in. The Big Ten got 3 teams in. Well, if the Big Ten got their way, where it would have been 4-4, 2-2, 1-1, the whole AQ model, the Big Ten would have gotten 1 more in. The SEC would have gotten 1 fewer in. And again, that's very anecdotal. It's a 1-year sample size. But it just goes to show you the SEC is sort of banking on the fact that, hey, we're deeper than you. Now, we may not have the best top-end teams, but we could litter the top 12 in a manner that your conference really can't. It's a roll of the dice, and any given year could produce an anomaly of a result, but that's the way it stands right now. At least in my mind, it does. Quick Trip could have stopped by there earlier today and grabbed unlimited amounts. Last check, Jesse, I don't even think they limit the amount of lip balm that you're allowed to purchase at Quick Trip. See, that's how they roll, man. They don't try and limit you. They don't try and interfere in your life. They remove the restrictions and limitations. And that could apply just as easily to cold brew, although I would argue there's a certain amount of cold brew past which you probably do need someone to step in, but it's not going to be a Quick Trip attendant. It could be your guardian or your chaperone or your parent. But Quick Trip, whether you need fuel, literally or figuratively, food, drink, cold brew on tap, Quick Trip has you, and Quick Trip fueled us all the way down to Atlanta. And back Saturday, a few days ago, we went to Penn State yesterday, but we needed a different kind of fuel to get up there. I'll talk about that later. Someone asked for some behind-the-scenes stuff from our Penn State trip, and it occurred to me that we used to do that all the time on the show, just little odds and ends behind the scenes, and I don't know why I stopped. But we're starting back up tonight. Anyway, thank you to Quick Trip, always fueling us wherever we need to go.